Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier, with some concluding thoughts for you on the Paris Peace Treaties. I've already made the point in an earlier presentation that when it comes to guilt, as well as whether countries were guilty or not, it's the degree of guilt that you should also think about. As for reparations and territorial losses, it's that word "and" I would think about, because territorial losses only made the reparations harder to pay, and so made them seem more unfair. Whereas with regard to territorial losses and self-determination, I would emphasise first just how complicated self-determination was, where to draw the borders, but also the plight of those who found themselves on the wrong side of a border. And we're talking about millions of people. Then there are the military clauses, and again, I've already referred to the inability of countries to defend themselves, and in Germany's case, to enforce order at home. And it's worth noting that the paramilitary and illegal Free Corps ended up outnumbering the German army by something like 30-1. And finally, with regard to the League of Nations, was it wise to postpone membership of the defeated countries, and Russia for that matter? So, already lots to think about in your conclusions. Now, whether the treaties were fair or just, and I've tried to show on the slide the subtle difference between the two judgments, I think you need to first go back to the issue of guilt, and so to the causes of the war and the way it was fought. I think that is absolutely essential. If countries were guilty, then some level of punishment seems both fair and just, though you can still question the level of punishment. But with regard to whether the treaties were just, you also have to go back to the organisation of the peace conference and the issue that the terms of the treaties were dictated. No case for the defence was presented, as the defeated countries were not invited to the discussions. Hence my point on this slide about lawful. Would you be happy if this happened to you in a court of law? I think not. Whereas the point about the morality of the treaties, I think would link back to guilt. But whether the treaties were just also links back to the mood in 1919. Can the treaties be justified even though they were diktats, given the mood of the French and British people and everything they had been through? And if we consider what the Germans imposed on Russia in the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, it's complicated. But that's okay. You don't have to always reach a definitive conclusion. It's important to show the complications and that there are different views on an issue. It shows you've thought about your history. As for wisdom, well, it's a wonderful thing. Often easier in hindsight than at the time. And again, that's okay. You're an historian, and so you are looking at events and decisions made in hindsight. And in answering a question on the wisdom of the Paris Peace Treaties, you could also make use of the too harsh, not harsh enough debate. Was it wise to have settled on a compromise? And that the treaties, particularly the Treaty of Versailles, were a compromise, meant that the wisdom on either side of that debate was also compromised. If a lasting peace was the aim, which it was for Wilson and I think Lloyd George, then the treaties were too harsh. If the aim was security, which it was for Clemenceau, then they were not harsh enough. As I've put on the previous slide, the proof lies in the subsequent history, but you need to properly explain why, and the too harsh, not harsh enough debate does that for you. Germans were shocked by the treaty. Hitler played on this, and World War II resulted, with Britain and France unable or unwilling to do enough to stop it. So, there you are, some conclusions on the Paris Peace Treaties for you to think about. And by the way, as I nearly always plug my website and sometimes my ebooks, let me this time take the opportunity to remind you that I'm happy to take on tutorials if you think you would benefit from them. These can be for a short period of time or for as long as you like, so long as I have slots available. And I think I mention on my website my fee. I'm actually a little embarrassed by that. It made it seem, a bit money-grabbing, I think. I would, in fact, be happy to negotiate whatever your parents can afford. I'm not doing any of this for the money, just as well, really. Anyway, contact me on historymadeeasier@gmail.com if you are interested, and we'll see if we can work something out. But for now, as always, I do thank you for listening. Cheers.